let's talk about the third quarter. It's the peak season for airlines, right? Sun, holidays, planes are packed. You'd think that would mean guaranteed profits for pretty much everyone. Well, as it turns out, this quarter's results tell a way more fascinating and, frankly, a much more complicated story. So let's dive in and decode who really won the summer travel boom of 2025. First up, just take a look at this number. In just 3 months, American Airlines pulled in a record-breaking $13.7 billion in revenue. Now, on the surface, that looks absolutely incredible, a massive win. But with airlines, you know the headline number, it almost never tells the whole story. Because in that exact same quarter, this was their bottom line, a loss, a staggering $114 million loss. So how on earth does that happen? That's the puzzle we're about to piece together. I mean, this is the central paradox we really have to get our heads around. Selling more doesn't always mean earning more. And this isn't just an American Airlines problem. It's the perfect case study in the razor-thin margins and, honestly, the brutal economics of the entire airline industry. And you know, what makes this even crazier is that the industry as a whole is doing great. IATA is projecting a global net profit of $36 billion this year. So, if the tide is rising for everyone, why are some of the biggest players out there struggling just to stay afloat? Well, the answer comes down to strategy. So let's start by looking at the winners, who actually managed to turn that summer travel frenzy into pure, cold, hard profit. Here's the global top 10 for the quarter. Just take a moment and let this sink in. What stands out to you? Right at the top, you've got Emirates. No big surprise there. They're the masters of long-haul premium travel. But then look at the rest of the list. It is dominated by European carriers, IAG, Lufthansa, Air France-KLM, and the low-cost giant Ryanair. And we absolutely can't ignore Avianca with that incredible 14.5% operating margin. That's a real sign of strength down in Latin America.
So what's their secret sauce? I mean, it's not enough to just see these numbers. We need to understand their playbook. What are these top-tier airlines doing so differently that they're pulling way ahead of the competition?
Well, if we look at our top two, we see two completely different yet equally brilliant strategies. Emirates is the global hub master. It uses its base in Dubai to basically connect the entire world, focusing on those high-paying premium passengers on really long international flights. IAG, on the other hand, is the European consolidator. It runs a whole portfolio of airlines, think British Airways, Iberia, to just dominate the skies over Europe, control capacity, and get huge cost savings. And if you want to see just how ridiculously effective IAG's strategy is, look at this number, a 22% operating margin. To put that in perspective, that is more than double what Delta, the top U.S. carrier, was able to achieve. This is just a masterclass in using market power and being ruthlessly efficient. Now, let's turn our attention back to North America. The revenue numbers here are just massive. But like we saw with American Airlines, turning all that revenue into actual profit, well, that's a fierce, fierce battle. To really understand this fight, you need to know two key terms. The first is TRASM. It stands for Total Revenue Per Available Seat Mile. Don't let the jargon scare you. The concept is super simple. Imagine a coffee shop. TRASM is just all the money it makes from a single chair over the course of a day. It's a measure of how good you are at making money. The other side of that coin is CASM, or Cost Per Available Seat Mile. In our coffee shop, this is the cost of just keeping that chair available. You know, the rent, the electricity, the barista salary. And here's the golden rule of the airline industry. You only make a profit when your revenue, your TRASM, is higher than your cost, your CASM. Simple as that. Okay, so let's put this into practice. This chart shows the profit per seat for the big three U.S. airlines. And just look at the huge gap between them. Delta is earning over 2 cents of profit for every single seat, while American is barely breaking even. We're talking fractions of a penny. That tiny difference, when you multiply it by millions and millions of seats, is the key to this whole story. And that solves our mystery. American Airlines brought in record revenue, a fantastic TRASM, but their costs, their CASM, were about 10% higher than their competitor United's. That cost disadvantage completely erased their revenue advantage and pushed them into a net loss. It's a powerful lesson. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how much you get to keep. So how do the winners do it? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the secret levers they're pulling to boost that revenue while keeping a really tight lid on costs. Okay, first rule. Profit is no longer just about selling an economy seat. It's about cultivating a high-margin revenue from other places. That means selling more premium cabin seats, building these incredibly valuable loyalty programs, and generating all that ancillary revenue from things like baggage fees and seat selection. And we're not talking about pocket change here. United's loyalty program revenue grew by 9%. That's a steady stream of high-profit cash that comes from things like credit cards, and it acts as a powerful buffer against the normal ups and downs of just selling tickets. And it's not just the traditional airlines. I mean, even Southwest, the king of low-cost travel, is reinventing itself to chase these new revenue streams. The message is crystal clear. The old model of just selling cheap seats isn't going to cut it anymore. But hey, you can't win just by raising revenue. You have to attack your costs. With jet fuel averaging a painful $90 a barrel, the number one weapon in an airline's arsenal is a modern, fuel-efficient fleet. These new planes can be up to 20% more efficient, which provides a massive structural cost advantage that pays dividends on every single flight. So here are the 3 key takeaways from this whole quarter. First, you've got to focus on high-quality revenue, not just high volume. Second, be obsessed, absolutely obsessed with controlling your costs, especially fuel. And third, turn your loyalty program into a profit-generating machine all on its own. And this brings us to a crucial final point. With huge backlogs at Boeing and Airbus, getting new fuel-efficient planes is harder than ever. This means the airlines that were smart enough to modernize their fleets before the crunch are now locked into a major competitive advantage for years. So as we look ahead, the big question isn't just about this quarter. It's who has already won the battle for 2026?